Hello, everyone. It's Sunday once again. Um, I'm sorry about last week. I didn't do Ask the Drummer last week because I was at Shine On, which is really absolutely amazing. It's a brilliant music festival, and if you haven't been to Shine On and Mindhead, I would highly recommend that you go next year because it's absolutely amazing. But anyways, it's now 3 o'clock in the UK. We're an hour late because our guest today is actually coming to us live from, I think it's New York. I forgot to ask him, but I think it's New York. But yeah, I'm really excited about today's guest because, oh my God, it's like I found out it's really fascinating. Um, and I really like to find out more about his life and his career. And I'm so honored that he's here on Ask the Drummers. So, with their friends, please welcome Edley ODowd. Yay! Is that right? Is it New York? Are you in
I
New
am
York?
from New York, but I recently moved to New Jersey. Uh,
Oh, you're in New Jersey. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So it's coming to us live from New Jersey, not from
it
New
doesn't sound as good, but you know,
York. But it's almost like a twin because it's all like very close to each other, right? New York and
yeah,
New
it's just
Jersey.
just 60 miles away. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah. And what's the weather like there in New Jersey at the moment?
it is sort of cloudy. Probably will rain. It's chilly. Not very nice.
Not very nice, but I'm sure it's not as cold as here. I mean, it's I've got to sort of like put a pullover on because it's not t-shirt weather anymore. It
Right.
is a bit cold here at the moment.
When
So
I lived in England, I found I was constantly chilled to the bone.
so do you prefer American weather then, or sort of like New Jersey weather?
I just prefer drier weather in general, where I'm not like, because when it gets cold and it's humid, it's too cold. It's like, but that's England, right? It's water all around. So you get that bone chilling cold, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But it's not as extreme though as other places. I mean, I've heard that in Canada they get like -40 or something.
It's painful in Canada. Like
Yeah.
in Toronto in the wintertime, if you walk down the street, like your lips will chap, you know.
Oh God. Yeah. At least here it's sort of like, we do get cold, but not as cold as
Yeah.
so. um yeah, so I'm gonna ask you later on about your new band called Scorpion Tea. But first I want to just welcome you. Let me welcome you to Ask the Drummer. Episode 102 is all about you, Edley O'Dowd. Now, O'Dowd, without an apostrophe. Has it always been without an apostrophe?
Yeah, because it's I think documentation with my family immigrating, I think that it got lost because half of my documents have it and half of them don't.
Well, there is a very famous O'Dowd, which is Boy George O'Dowd. But his, I think, has got an apostrophe. So there's no relations to George O'Dowd, is it?
No, but he and I have discussed it on
Oh, you have?
a couple of different occasions. Yeah, because he's a friend of my old band, Toilet Boys, and he wrote a song for us some years ago, and we recorded it, and he came in and sang backups on it. So
Oh, wow.
we got to chat about the history of the name O'Dowd, which he knows quite a bit about. He was like he really studied it. Not a super popular name, but it has roots, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
the likelihood of him and I being related in some fashion is pretty high.
So it's like Irish, so like Irish background, is
Yeah,
that? Yeah. So are you from a musical family?
no, one drummer in the family, my father's brother. Nobody else really. Yeah, I mean a little bit of piano, this and that, but nobody who took it to the extreme that I did.
Oh, but have you always been drawn to the drums, or did you try to learn other sort of like musical instruments like the piano or
I,
guitar?
I tried to learn other ones, but they weren't as immediate to me. Um, and I guess just sort of like the immediate nature of being able to sit down and play something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
I've tried, but not with any sort of success. Like I play things, but I don't play them in any traditional sense. You know.
what sort of like got you into drumming? So what's the fascination, or what made you sort of like become a drummer?
Well, I saw it was the easiest and the cheapest, right? Because in school it was like if you wanted to be in the marching band and you wanted to play trombone, you had to rent a trombone, you know. And my family didn't have that, so I said, well, I could take drum lessons. I don't need drums. I just need a pad and a pair of sticks, and it's $8. And they said, okay, well, we can afford that. Um, when my mother saw that I was interested and continued to be interested, she found a drum kit at a garage, like a boot sale for $50 um,
Oh, wow.
in the early '80s, and she was like, "Do you want to try this?" And I thought, "Yeah, give it." You know, and many failed attempts. It didn't sound like my Kiss records or my Cheap Trick records, and I was annoyed by it, so I put them in the closet. But then eventually met other kids that were interested in making music, and pulled them out of the garage, and I did like Mo Tucker standing up, you know, like floor tom and snare drum with a cymbal, and then eventually learned to bring another drum and just taught myself how to do it.
Yeah, I have actually watched a couple of your videos on YouTube, and you are sort of like a standing drummer, or I don't know what's the proper name for it, but it's fascinating because it's Bobby Gillespie when he was in Jesus and Mary Chain, he was also sort of like a standing drummer. So I was sort of like gonna want to ask him. It may sound sort of like silly, but where's the bass drum though? Well, it's like what happens to the bass drum?
Well,
To
initially, right? I mean, and the funny thing about Bobby is that he was my inspiration because at that age, Jesus and Mary Chain were just coming out, right? So I saw this. I mean, we had no internet, so it was all just images and record covers. And I saw this incredibly cool looking band from England, right? Playing
yeah,
drums standing up. And I'm like, I want to do that. But later realized that it came from Maureen Tucker from the Velvet Underground, you know. Um, but so it was very short lived with the standing. I mean, I've done some gigs standing, but most of them are sitting, you know. So
yeah. So what do you do with sort of like if you're standing, what do you do with the bass sounding? So like, because you know, with your with when you're sitting down, you're constantly so like got your foot doing the like the bass sort of like
yeah, I
sound.
think it's
So
kind of like you kind of hit the floor tom a bit harder, you know,
see, okay, all
to
right,
kind of
yeah.
give it that slap. And I play with mallets, so it's like extra loud. Um, so if you're doing the back beat, you're kind of giving that floor tom a bit extra.
All right, okay. Sorry, I'm not a drummer myself, but I just love I just love watching drummers. And it was all like when I saw you when you saw your videos, and of course with Bobby Gillespie saw it like that as well. Just thinking it sounded full, but then you haven't got that sort like loud bass drum on it. So, but so I thought I'll ask you about that. But
Hmm.
anyways, before we continue, Aiden said that sound and vision good, which is brilliant because Aiden is my support tech. So when he says it's sound and vision good, that means it's absolutely fine. It's amazing.
Okay.
So yeah, so right. So what was your first band? How did you sort like what's the first band that you played as a drummer?
First band I played in as a drummer was called Geek Attack. It was a hardcore, um, 80s hardcore punk. And but I had been playing with a friend of mine in my art class, and we were just doing that on Saturdays, but never really had a band per se. But in a small town, like the word got around. There's a drummer. Grab that drummer. So I got asked to play in a hardcore band, and I was, pretty terrible, but it was kind of fun and formative to do that at 15 years old.
Oh, you were 15.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And but you didn't sort of like release any records. It's not just sort of like a
Yeah, just
community, is that a community band or something?
and we
Yeah.
played gigs at like there was a place in like if you know about hardcore or whatever, there was a place in Connecticut called the Anthrax, and that was like a big formative place for hardcore bands. Like Youth of Today were formed there, so that's where the gigs were in
Oh, right.
the very early days of Anthrax in Connecticut.
Yeah. I've looked you up on Discogs, of course, and one of the bands that you were in that that sort of like caught my eye is a band called the Bunny Brains.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is I've actually got a 10-inch single, but it's not really the Bunny Brains, but it's Bunny Brains 88.
Okay. There's a
Which
lot of different, I mean, I'm not familiar with all those factions, but the two guys are friends of mine from college. And I've played with, I mean, they lived locally to the college. They were older. I played with them even back then in the 80s. So it's like, it's just this kind of fluid collective that occasionally they call me and say, hey, come play.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's
So but Bunny Brains, there's different folks, different factions, slightly different names. So Bunny Brains 88, I don't really remember what that was, but I don't think it's the one I'm involved in.
but it's funny because the description is like, I mean, I don't know if you agree to this, but the description they have of the Bunny Brains, like the most embarrassing yet excellent yet awful rock band to come out of Connecticut. Would you say?
Yeah, they're kind of, I mean, I think, but that's the intention was to be sort of awful. I mean, there's nothing traditional about the Bunny Brains in that way, is that there's like, it's all about, just what happens in the moment, right? That kind of art making, right? Improvisation.
Yeah, yeah. It's because the one that I've got is a song called "Squirrel Attack," and it's like I mean, it's good because the vinyl itself is like a split red and clear vinyl, and that's what caught my eye. but then, but when I actually listened to it, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So was that your sort of like your first band that actually released a record, or did you have any other band before that?
No, I mean, I think that in like Bunny Brains, like I said, was just sort of an occasional thing. So I didn't actively make records with them. But when, after the hardcore band, some college bands or whatever, I ended up in 1990 getting accepted to an exchange program in England. And I moved over in 1990 to go to school at Middlesex Polytechnic for a semester. But within a couple of weeks of arriving, I met other people. I was asked to come audition for a band. There was lots happening. I mean, London in 1990 was just like exploding. And so I was like, well, I'm here for 6 months, Leo, let me give it a shot. And I didn't leave England for 2 years because we
Oh,
ended up touring and playing and all the, like, it was the sort of early days of shoegaze in London.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so it was a really exciting time. But then eventually it just kind of, it wasn't happening. It wasn't like, I couldn't really live off of it, and I couldn't work in England. So I just left and came home.
Oh, I
So that
see.
was where I, like, my first professional recording was with that band in England in
What's it
1990.
called?
We
What's it?
were called the Butterflies.
Butterflies. Oh, it's not in your it's not in your Discogs entry. I've got to sort of like look it up.
Because it never came out, right? Like we recorded a bunch of stuff, and then it was never released, and then I left the band. They carried on with another drummer for a year, and it just fizzled out. So
Oh, see.
it's also interesting that there's, because kids today, like, they all these indie labels put out reissues of things that maybe we never heard the first time around.
Yeah, yeah.
And Butterflies are one of those bands, like a shoegaze band that nobody's ever heard of.
Ah, but do you think they'll probably get to reissue or release, or not reissue, but release this record? Because
I'm
a
not
lot of people,
sure. Nobody. I don't really. We all talk once in a while, like, "Hey, how you
yeah,
do?" It's just, but there's never been any discussion of that.
no,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, because there are also like lots of bands nowadays. So like because it hasn't been released at the time, so they're sort of like reforming and then releasing this and maybe tour the album as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I was talking about Shine On earlier on, because I went there last weekend, and it's mainly sort of like 90s bands. I mean, some of them I've not heard of. So
Oh,
yeah, so I think if you did sort of like decide to, you know, release this album and maybe tour it, maybe or something.
yeah. I mean, it would be, it'd be great to like see it have its day. You know what I mean? Just because
Yeah,
we worked
yeah,
so hard on it, but like, England also was a great place to be, but also like the music, the press there was just so cruel. Like Melody Maker and Enemy, like that was it. Like you're either here or they put you, you're like way down, And so like the live reviews were like glowing, 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 and then one day it was just like this really shitty, like crappy review, and we were like, oh god, and that was it. Nobody wanted to book us anymore.
so when you went back to America after your the gigs with the butterflies, so then you formed or you joined Toilet Boys?
I,
Or
I was with a few other groups first, and then I joined Toilet Boys, which was formed by the singer Miss Guy and their friend Paul. It was supposed to be a one night gig, so I get this call saying like just 4 or 5 songs for Miss Guy, at this club, blah blah blah, opening for Debbie Harry, and I was like, cool, that sounds like a great time, and we did it, and the phone never stopped ringing after that. Like it was a Friday night, Saturday morning, my phone is ringing saying, hey, we want to book you at blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't even know who you are. So it was kind of fascinating that it caught fire so quickly. You know what I mean?
yeah, but you weren't. Apparently, some people are saying that you were Debbie Harry's band, but you weren't. You're
No,
actually sort of like a separate band
we were a
from
separate
Debbie
band,
Harry.
opening band. I mean, I've played drums for Debbie in the past, like on that sort of gig where it's just her singing with a pickup band. But no, Toilet Boys were definitely not Debbie's band. You know,
Yeah, yeah. And you all had nicknames. So I just want to make sure that you're Electric Eddie. Is that you? Is that you then?
the
Oh,
tattoo says it. Electric Eddie,
Electric. Where did the name come from though? It's like Toilet Boys. It's just.
the guitar player. Well, I mean, the Toilet Boys was a sort of a goofy name between Miss Guy and a friend of ours called Howie Pyro. And I guess they had come up with that, and it just sort of sat. And I guess because Guy thought, well, we're just doing it for one night, we'll just call it Toilet Boys. It'll be funny. But then to have a band called Toilet Boys, trying to be a professional band, you know what I mean, like a touring recording band or whatever, was definitely a bit of a challenge because people were like not sure about the name. You know,
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like when people introduce you, it's like Toilet Boy. It's
I know, right? First and foremost, my parents, Toilet Boys. You know,
But you did so like release an album with
a bunch.
Toilet
Yeah,
Boy.
we did a few. We had a couple of albums and a bunch of EPs. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's happened to the rest of the band members?
We all chat. We do the occasional reunion gig. We don't even
Oh,
call them reunion gigs anymore. We just play when we're asked.
yeah,
During
yeah.
the pandemic, it was interesting because people were really, really hungry, and there were venues and restaurants that were just like, we'll work whatever code has to be worked out just to get some live music in. So we did a couple of gigs during the pandemic that were like amazing because nobody else was doing gigs. And so
Yeah,
we kind of
yeah.
had, like the cream of the crop pick, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that was so like it seems like a long time ago, the lockdown and things, but it did happen. It was like sometimes you think, did it really so like happen that nobody went out for like 2 years or
I know, I
something?
know.
Yeah. So from Toilet Boys, is that right? Am I right in thinking that you then became a member of Psychic TV?
Yes. Hmm.
Um, so can you tell us how did that come about? Because Psychic TV and of course, Genesis P Orange. They're like, I, I'm sure they're massive in the UK, and I've heard of them. I'm originally from the Philippines,
Oh,
uh,
okay, okay.
so but I'm not sure whether Throbbing Gristle or Psychic TV reached us in the Philippines, but I know that here, they're like massive and they're very popular.
Yeah,
So, can you tell us how did you get involved with Psychic TV and Genesis P Orange?
it's complicated and simple, right? My very first girlfriend, who is known publicly now as Lady J, Briar Peorage, right, ended up marrying Genesis, and so I mean, to me, she's Jackie. To everybody else, she's Lady J. But so she and I were very much in contact in the early '90s when I returned from England, and she called me up one day and she said, the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with has been in a terrible accident, and I need to go to California for a while. I don't know when I'll be home. um, she didn't come home for years. The next phone call that I got was her saying, yeah, we're back, and I had like moved to a different part of the city and all this stuff, and she came to visit me, drove over, and we sat outside. It was summertime, caught up for a few hours, and I went back to my apartment. This was, again, like pre-internet. So I noticed that my answering machine is blinking and the tape is full. It's like, I've only been out for a few hours. I can't imagine who called this many times. So I press play and I hear, hello, this is Genesis Peorage, and I'm like, how is Genesis Peorage calling me? I didn't know. Like, Jackie never told me that's who she ended up with. It was like all a complete surprise. And then, like, I'm looking for my wife, blah, blah, blah. I was like, holy crap. So I call the number. I'm like, hi, I'm, Eddie, blah, 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 and it just it struck this friendship, like within a week or so, we were hanging out and going out to lunch and all this kind of stuff. And it was very much a friendship first.
Yeah, yeah,
The three of us did a lot of traveling together. We just were very much like three musketeers. And then the conversation of doing music came up. And it was like, why? My main question was, why don't you do psychic TV anymore? Because people, I think, would want to hear this. And Genesis was like, I'm too old. It's too much work. I don't want to do it all myself. And now that I'm, 20 years on the other side of that, I understand what they were talking about. But at the time, I thought, you should be doing this.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Genesis agreed to let me set up one gig with a pickup band of my choosing, and I did that, and nobody expected that it was going to be 500 people standing outside in a snowstorm waiting to get into this tiny little club.
Wow. That's
So it went on for 20 years of us playing.
yeah.
You know,
That's really sort of like amazing because on Wikipedia it actually says that you're the one who introduced uh Lady J to Genesis P Orange, but it doesn't. It didn't actually says that you were going out with her at the time, or
oh, we were. I mean, we were teenage. We were going out in 1984. We were teenagers.
oh
She was
right,
my very first girlfriend. Like, first girl I ever kissed, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. And then you sort of like ended up in a band with her husband.
Yes, yes,
And yeah, it also says Wikipedia also says that your Genesis P or just sort of like closest confidant, and you're the one who sort of like told him to do psychic TV sort of like gigs again. And you're a designer as well, so you designed all the albums,
yeah.
like the artwork, posters, records, and everything. Um, what was it like working with?
It was really. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah,
there's so much good stuff to say. You know what I mean? There's always going to be negative stuff when you're working with somebody who's like has as much sort of like power, if you will, as Genesis did. you know, and
Yeah.
so the good stuff was that like, and nobody can really ever contest it, right? Because it's now that they're gone, it's kind of like, well, everybody's got their things to say about people who pass or whatever. But Genesis and I, like, we shared a brain for a while, which was kind of amazing because we didn't artwork and stuff like that between us got to the point where we didn't even really need to converse. Um, we were so connected that I would just sort of put something together and send a JPEG, and Genesis would say, "Yeah, of course, that's it. That's exactly it." You know.
Wow. Oh wow.
So
And you
there's a
yeah,
really good introduction. I published a book in 2016 about the artwork. And
yeah.
Genesis wrote a forward to that. That's very, very, very like it's basically 5 pages of what you like. It's exactly what you need to know about our relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And also there's like a film. I found that there's like it released in 2011 called The Ballad of Genesis and Lady J.
Yeah.
And you're in that film as well. You're yeah, and it won an award apparently. For,
Yes.
yeah.
Very whimsical. Like interesting. The film I think was supposed to be kind of a bit different, and it really turned into more of this love story between Genesis and Lady J because Lady J had passed away during the filming.
Oh God,
So they had to
yes.
kind of like, figure out like a new concept because she wouldn't be able to participate as a living person. Um,
Yeah.
so they chose to sort of build the subject more around their relationship, which was very accurate in a lot of ways, that film. They were sort of these two mercurial beings, that just kind of like, dressed alike. And it was sweet, very sweet.
Yeah, yeah. Oh wow. And also you mentioned earlier that you actually lived next door or next to Genesis B Orange when you were in
Basically,
but
down
you
the
didn't
street.
know each other at the time.
Nope. Did not know
That's
each other at the time. So to become as close as we did, and then to realize, oh yeah, where were you in 91 or 92? So when Genesis's exile from England was happening, was kind of when I was getting ready to leave England also. So it was
yeah,
just weird that we had these parallels and never knew. You know.
God.
Yet later we realized too, many friends in common, many situations in common. Like we just hadn't done that yet. You know.
That's amazing. It's almost like you're really destined to be so like meet and become friends. Everything.
Genesis called it the of course factor, which was like, something that's like us meeting, right? And us collaborating in the way that we did. Genesis would call it the of course factor. Of course we found each other. Of course we collaborated because it was destined, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're now so like what's the word, keeper, or you're the one who has all the or release all the like things, everything, psychic TV and everything about Genesis Peorage.
I'm no longer involved.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was like, you know, new dawn, right?
oh, see,
Yeah, I
oh,
know.
so,
We'd expect it to be different, but it just didn't work out that way. It just kind of like, I think for me emotionally also it was better just to walk forward, you know.
oh, see, yeah, yeah. Well, okay. Well, before I ask you about your new band, there are also other things that I wanted to ask you about. One is The Majesty. Is that just sort of like a side project of Psychic TV, or
It was
can you tell
Genesis's
us
side
more about it?
project with Genesis had that with a couple of other people, and then it became kind of a rotating band where, depending on the nature of the gig or the type of gig, Genesis would choose different people to be a part of the Majesty, um, which from like 2005 onwards was usually included me.
Yeah, yeah.
And then eventually Genesis and I just started doing gigs on our own with just the two of us.
All right. Okay. So, but you played drums in that, or did you do like poetry as well and
Genesis did
like?
poetry, violin, and I did drums and electronics. So it was
Oh,
very very stripped down. There's a great
Yeah.
example of that. It's called Live at Cafe Auto in London, and we did a performance there that was put out as a record, and it's very intimate, stripped down. You can hear some, you can hear like the things hitting the floor, like that kind of intimacy. You know,
And that's out on vinyl, or is that
it's out
out
on
on?
vinyl, it's on Bandcamp, it's on streaming. Yeah,
Oh
it's
wow. Oh, that's brilliant. I'm sort of like going to check it on the check it on Discogs and things. And also, I think this one is more your sort of like band or your project, Mother Flock and Boodle Boy. Are those sort of like you drumming on your own, or sort of like did you have a
no,
band?
but they're collaborations with other people where it's just kind of like a random thing. Like Mother Flock was when I lived in England and I was there, my rehearsal room, I jammed with a couple other people. It was on cassette and it was like, I don't know, in the early 2000s, all these kids were like, they wanted to put out things that didn't exist. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I said, well, I have this tape of this jam I did in London in 91 or whatever. And they wanted to put it out. And it's like, okay, it's not really a band. It was a one moment thing, 45 minutes of music, then those people never played together again. So that's what Mother Flock was. And Boodle Boy was something I had done with a friend of Genesis where the goal was to make music that made us laugh. And we both have really scary senses of humor. So it got weird, it was like the weirdest music we could make.
And another one is I don't know how to pronounce it, but is it KYLESA or KYLESA? KYLESA?
KYLESA?
KYLESA.
Yeah.
KYLESA. So according to Discogs, you're one of the musicians they use for live gigs, but you're not really part of the band, or
No. Mm-mm. Yeah,
so you're
just for
doing yeah.
I did basically my commitment with them was about a year. We actually did one recording, which is out. It was a limited edition 12-inch. And then I did a significant amount of touring with them.
Yeah, yeah.
And but then after that they released one more album and then they called it a day. They decided not to be a band anymore.
What sort of like genre is it? Is it so like
That's doom
it's
metal.
like different from what you normally do? Or, yeah.
Yeah, it was like sort of doom metal, and that's a really popular form of music in South of America.
Oh, I see.
They're
Okay.
from Georgia, so I definitely got a sense of there's lots of bands that are sort of this ilk, like a thriving scene out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because yours is more so like arty, isn't it? It's like an arty it's like so like psychedelic kind of
Yeah, but it was
music,
a
and
big
then
challenge to play with a group like KYLESA because it's like double drumming, and they were familiar with my work with Psychic TV, and my son was a big fan, and so I brought my son to see them play, and it led to me meeting the band and all this stuff, and then 4 years later, I get a call saying, "Hey, we need a drummer. Like, do you want to hang out with us for all?" And I was like, "Absolutely."
but it's all so they've split up now. They're not
Yeah.
playing anymore. Oh,
Mm.
it's a shame. So now I'm gonna ask you. We're gonna talk about your new band now because this is really exciting. I do like the press release that came with this sort of like the self debut album that's out. It's already out, isn't it? From is it Give Take Records, which
Yeah,
is according according to Wikipedia, it's like for Los Angeles. It's a Los Angeles or like based record company.
Los Angeles and Minneapolis.
Oh right, yeah, yeah. So Scorpion T, it says it's like the album is like a sonic journey. I like this one. A sonic journey born from a spontaneous adventure that was nothing short of cinematic. And so like sometimes I wish I could write things like that, you know. It's like, instead of just me saying, "Oh my god, this is awesome," you know. It's
Right. I know. I wish I could write that way as well. I rely on our vocalist who does write that way.
So, can you tell us more about this Scorpion T, your new band? How did it come about?
So after everything, with Genesis passing and all that kind of stuff, there was a lot during lockdown. There was a lot of activity for me, like life-changing activity. I decided to leave New York City after 30 years. Stuff like that. After with Genesis being gone, my son turning 30, there wasn't really that much of a need for me to be there. And I started to feel like, well, I could look at something different. And then I started dating during the pandemic, and I met my partner, who I now live with in New Jersey in our house.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like a big change, and thought, well, wasn't sure if I was going to continue with music. I did a solo album that came out last year. That's
Oh,
mostly like sort of more noise oriented. And my friend Chris, who I've known for a long time, was recovering from a knee surgery. We were very in touch during the pandemic, and kind of, I'm sure everybody's has that, like those sort of pandemic buddies that they spoke to more during
yeah.
that time. And
Yeah.
he's from Colombia, so he was living there. And as things started to open up, he said, I'm recording music, I'm writing music, I'm really excited. Why don't you try to come here? Right? Like, I'm recovering from this knee surgery, I'm just sort of staying local. So I looked and I thought, I found a flight for $400, and I thought, what have I got to lose? You know, and plus I'll get to see my friend, and get to see a country I've never been to before. And it was nothing short of cinematic. I mean, everything about it was just intoxicating and sort of stimulating. And we made all this incredible music. And then when we were done, he said, yeah, I want to play you some demos. And this was exactly the kind of music that I wanted Scorpion Tea to be. And I said, how do I convince you to move back to the US? And he did.
Wow.
So
But
I said,
yeah,
you're serious, I'm serious. So I took the demos, got us on a label, got everything set up, and we just started rolling. So he lives here now with the bands together. We're 5 gigs in, 1 album out, and we're looking forward to 2024.
yeah. So, did you record in Colombia or
I
when?
recorded with Chris in Colombia stuff
Yeah, yeah.
towards a different record that he was making, but the recording for Scorpion Tea happened in LA, with a guy called Thomas Dolas, who's in a band called OCs,
Oh, yeah.
who are getting very popular in
They do.
England right now.
Yeah. I was gonna say because I think one of the band members of OCs, he comes to our record shop. Well, not my record shop. I just work there. But whenever they're in Manchester, he comes to King B Records in
Is that where you
in
were? I have to write that down. King B? Okay.
King B Records in Manchester. Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard your accent, and I'm like, she's from Liverpool or Manchester. I can't tell where. You know.
So yeah, that's how I found because they're also called sometimes the OCs or
Yes.
maybe just OCs. So they have sort of like different names. But yeah, they are quite big here and they always
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
I've been
so
very
that
excited for them because especially this last tour they did, I was like chatting with Thomas on text the whole time, and I'm like, so, and a few of my
yeah.
friends went out to see the gigs, and they were just like, this is, they're tearing it up. It's wonderful. But
Yeah.
so he's a super talented engineer, and and helped us make this record that is just, to me, like no other record I've ever made.
Yeah, because it actually again this is I wish I could write things like this because it says that Scorpion Tea invite you to experience the uncharted territories of music as if you're right there in the midst of their artistic journey. I actually watched one of the videos. It's called, oh my god, it's In a Vile Suit. And I love music videos because I'm a teenager. I was a teenager in the 80s, and MTV was really big at the time. And
Yeah.
I've always liked music videos with the story. And In a Vile Suit, the music video for that is, I just find it really fun, and it's got a really nice story to it as well.
Yep.
So, so is this so In a Vile Suit is in your album
Yes.
included in your song? Like, is that like the carrier
It's
single, or is that
it's the
the?
third. There's 3 singles. There's 3 videos, 3 singles from the album.
All
In a
right.
Vile Suit is the third one. There's two more. They started rolling out last June.
Right. And again, it says that you've recorded 12 songs apparently for this album, but only 10 made it. Can I just ask you, how do you choose, or how do you sort like leave out songs for, like, how do you
Sometimes it's
these songs?
easy because it's just obvious, right? Like, oh, this one just doesn't feel as finished, or it just doesn't fit the repertoire the same way. This one was very different in that way, where it was like, I feel like this album from start to finish was more of a painting that revealed itself. Um, we just kept adding to the canvas, you know what I mean? And then you take away and then you add, and it's like over the months of mixing remotely with Thomas, and then the
Yeah.
band would get together on Zoom and discuss, and it was like something that would seem really like this is going to happen a few weeks later might be like, no, I think this other thing. So it was this, it wasn't, the choices weren't clear from the get-go. They kind of revealed themselves as we made the record.
Yeah, but it's also like it's the band's decision, not the engineer or the producer who sort of
Right.
like decides.
Yeah, very much the band's decision. I mean, I'm looking at it like I have on my board in front of my desk, like the first track list that I wrote out of what the album could be, what the running order could be, and it
Yeah.
completely changed. Completely changed.
Because I find all these recording things, and because sometimes you hear bands saying that they've actually recorded say 20 songs but only 10 or 12 got into the, and you want to sort of like hear, I wonder what the other songs were like, and will
Right.
they release it, or what's gonna happen to those songs, it's like
These will be released. These two songs will definitely be released. There's plans for them, for different things. And I think one of them might end up on my solo album because
oh
it's more of a
yeah,
solo
yeah.
track than it is a band track.
Oh, I see. So you're also doing your own things, and with the soul like Scorpion Tea.
Yeah,
So
I mean, everybody in Scorpion T has another project, right? Like,
all right.
um, Chris, does like, it's funny because Chris makes, he plays such an aggressive, mean guitar, and you'd think like that's all he does, but he actually makes under different names beautiful um, Latin American pop music.
Wow. So yeah, yeah. So your solo album, it's just called Edley. You just sort of like
Edley
your name,
ODowd, yeah.
Edley ODowd.
Mm.
It's not so like any like Electric Eddie or something.
No, no. I just wanted to keep it simple, I mean, I wasn't really intending to do anything solo, but a friend of mine convinced me that I needed to stay active, because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
hard losing Genesis. It was hard having so much life changes. And I just thought, well, I could just reinvent myself and do something else. And people kept saying, well, but people want to hear from you musically, so you really should try. And
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
been a really interesting experience because it's all new to me. Like I never made music on like using the computer to mix and things like, and so it's all been this very new, you know. Video also is a brand new thing for me that I've been really excited as an artist to work with.
Yeah. And do you sing, or in your solo album it's like,
No, 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 no.
oh, so it's so like instrumental things or so?
Instrumental and sort of,
Oh,
more for like it's kind of like music for horror films.
right. Okay. Well, Scorpion Tea. I mean, where did the name come from? Was that
The name came
so?
from Gibby Haynes of the Butthole Surfers. You familiar
Oh,
with Butthole
yeah,
Surfers?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
in the I was a big fan, of course, in the 80s, and they made a short film called Entering Texas, where it's like a family barbecue gone wrong. And
Oh.
not unlike In a Vile Suit, right? Where like, the garage sale goes wrong. But so Gibby Haynes offers his guests Scorpion tea to drink, right? And
Oh, I
how
see.
he makes the Scorpion tea is really disgusting, and I won't say it on air. But you know, I just always thought it was a funny name because it's like Gibby with this mug going, "Want some Scorpion tea?" And I'm like, what would Scorpion tea do to you? And if I
Yeah.
listen to our record, that's what Scorpion Tea would do to you.
So what would you say is the what would you s- what would you say the genre of Scorpion Tea so like music falls under?
It's hard because it's everybody says, well, it sounds like Christian death, so it's death rock, and I mean, I kind of go with psychedelic death rock because it's
So,
the easiest to explain, but
yeah, yeah,
I do think that it's more and has the potential to be so much more, because there's all
yeah,
these different things buried in it. Like I said, with the Latin American stuff, like you're gonna find reggaeton buried, in some of the sections. Like just happens.
yeah. Well, Aiden said that it's fascinating conversation. He nearly saw Genesis and Throbbing Gristle. He said that they were due to perform at the Project Arts Centre in Dublin in 1979, but couldn't fly from London due to bad weather.
Oh
So,
wow.
so yeah, yeah. So it's like a long time ago. You mentioned that you're going to be doing gigs in 2024 and you're going to be touring the album. Any of those are like UK dates or are they just
And
all
this is
in?
where I shout out on your show. Any booking agents that like this band, please get in touch. It's been impossible post COVID to get gigs. It's so hard.
Yeah. I think there's all like I don't know. Well, there's still lots of American bands, or maybe so like coming to the UK, but apparently there are like problems with visas and things like that. I don't know if that's true, but
There always
um,
has been, but it's like, I mean, I'm sure, I just feel like everything's gotten more complicated post pandemic in terms of travel.
yeah. Well, hopefully, and it would be nice so like for the OCs as well to so like you supporting the OCs or something like.
I would love that, but again, it's all these agents take care of themselves, and their bands, and it's like I've got this, like Scorpion Tea, here it is.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully you will. But no, you also can I just ask you when you're not drumming, um, I've found out that you're actually a professor.
Yes,
So, so you teach like graphic designs.
yeah, I haven't in quite a while. But I still teach in the form of like I kind of offer life coaching services to people. Um,
Oh wow!
Especially young people, because there's a lot of the world's changed rapidly so
Yeah,
much in the last 10 years that I seem to attract a lot of younger people that are in search of wisdom. So rather than teach the subject of graphic design, I tend to teach the subject of life.
oh wow. Oh wow! Well, I think that's sort of like that's what we all need. So we need life coaches and things. And also, you're a DJ.
Yep, that's an occasional thing. Also, when it's available, when there's the need, I love to DJ because I definitely have a strange, you know, collection of music and taste in music.
Yeah, yeah. And do you, when you DJ, is it like vinyl DJ? So do you?
No, no, it's too hard. In the 90s, I did that. I would drag my bag of vinyl down to the club, but not since the advent of iPads.
Yeah, yeah. Because I just find, when I go to this place like gigs, and sometimes they have DJs before the main event. I see DJs who don't have those vinyl anymore. They just all like have I don't know whether CD or whatever. But it's always nice when you see them, all these sort of like records
Yeah,
out there, and they're flicking through them, and so like it's oh wow, that is so good.
yeah.
But
There's definitely something satisfying about doing it. Using the actual vinyl, but yeah, just haven't done it.
yeah, yeah, um, that's amazing. So apart from teaching and drumming and anything else that sort of like keep you busy when you're sort of like not doing anything.
Well,
So
I mean, there's making art, right? I mean, there's the commercial graphic design work, but then I make things for my own,
do you
satisfaction or whatever.
do you design sort of like record sleeves for other bands as well?
Yeah, I have a pretty big pretty big repertoire. Um, if you look at my website, there's a lot of indication of like people that I've worked with, but primarily like this year, I'd say like the last couple of years, my biggest acts have been Billy Joel. Um, and then on the extreme other side would be Diamanda Galas.
Oh wow.
So I've been
Jill.
working a lot with Diamanda on her new records and reissuing her old records too.
Yeah. I wonder if you're the one who did the covers for some of her albums. I remember, so like, because I told you I work at King B. I remember getting some of her or Demand Glasses records in the shop, and they're quite expensive. They
Yeah,
are
because
expensive.
they're made here, right? They're exported over to the UK, I think.
No, they are expensive. I was sort of like, I'm not familiar with the music, but I was sort of like, every time I see someone's record and it so like it says like £100 or whatever, it makes me think, oh my god, I've got to check it out. but anyway, so Scorpion T's album is actually available on like Bandcamp, or is
It's
it?
yeah, every streaming platform, Bandcamp, to if you want to buy digital, and it's physical LP as well.
Oh, this physical, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so in the UK you can order it through Rough Trade or Cargo.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, yeah. And it's a CD and vinyl.
Only vinyl. Yeah, no CD.
Oh, there's no
Um,
CD. Okay, so only vinyl.
so if,
Um,
if King B wants to stock one, that would be awesome.
well, the only thing is with King B, we only do secondhand records and not really. So it all so like depends on what people bring to us, and then so like and then because we don't,
Okay.
yeah, so so we don't do like new ones. I remember yesterday someone was asking for Olivia Rodrigo's I think Olivia Rodrigo's album, and it was all like it said no, we don't have that one.
Hmm.
um, right, I know it's nearly 4 o'clock or nearly 11 o'clock. Have you had your breakfast? Have you had your breakfast yet?
Yes,
Because it was
I
like,
I live in the country, so I get up really early. I have to feed the chickens and walk the dogs, and.
but I've got all these other questions I wanted to ask you before I let you go. When you play the drums, do you twirl?
No, no,
No.
no.
Is it hard when you're standing, when you're like standing drummer and then twirling as well, or is it?
Well, twirling, I don't know. I mean, I've always been fascinated with it, of course, and I've tried to do it, and I can, but it's just not the sort of thing that I can imagine doing like while performing. It just seems like an extra task. You know what I mean?
Oh.
But but I have to say what about twirling, because when I use the mallets, right, the drumsticks with the mallet at the end of it, you have more weight, right, because it's heavier, so it's easier because you're doing it in your knuckles. That's how it's
Yeah.
done, basically. This, right? Um,
Oh.
so it's a bit easier with the mallets because they have some weight to them. These.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I play with.
Oh, I see. And do you do? Because what was it? I think it was recently. I saw a drummer. I think it was last weekend that he's got that, but he's doing it so like alternately. So it's like you
Yes, I
do it
have
with that.
seen that. Hmm.
So you do that as well?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
I'm way more of a caveman. It's this. You know what I mean? There's nothing fancy.
So you don't think you'll do the twirling with Scorpion Tea then? It's all like
Probably not.
not
Probably not.
yeah, yeah. What about drumming heroes? Who are your sort of like drumming heroes?
Well, of course, Maureen Tucker, right? Because once I learned about her, I'm still to this day fascinated with her because she just as a personality, she so wasn't the typical drummer or rock band person or whatever. She was really kind of like an average Long Island person who worked a straight job, you know. but had this extraordinary talent that I think even they're not aware of, how profound that talent is. Because if you look at it, there's a guy actually, I think, from England on YouTube who kind of like takes apart Mo's drumming style and reenacts it so you can see exactly what's being done. And when you look at that, it's like, wow, how did they think of that? It's so inventive and profound, because it's giving this full drum kit sound to just a couple of drums. So it's all about how Mo, so Mo, of course, huge influence. John Bonham will always be an influence. I love that lead foot, the floor, bass drum just pounding. And and I mean, Budgie from Susie and the Banshee is also like a very big influence for me because it was using mallets and using extra percussion and all that kind of stuff was something I really got from him when I was a kid.
Yeah. And Bobby Gillespie?
Yeah, of course, because of the stand drummer thing, just that sort of blown out image from Psycho Candy, just like
that's right.
And just it's like I stared at that for days and days. I wanted to be that.
Yeah, because when I sort of like started as the drummer, it's actually for a Bobby Gillespie quote, or at least he's sort of like credited for it, where he says that a band is only as good as its drummer. But but it turned out it was actually Joe Strummer from the Clash, who said that.
So really?
Yeah. So
that's interesting. But what I mentioned, I would like to know if you're a drummer.
I'm not.
How come?
No, I'm not a drummer. I just love drummers, but I tried to do it myself, but I can't because it's just too complicated. And I think this is what I always ask the drummers: do you think it's got to be in you? It's sort of like naturally in you, and I know you can learn it or you can have lessons and stuff, but I still think that a drummer's got like a talent that's so like, maybe you can say a God-given talent, but it's got to be in you. Would you say that?
I think to a degree, yes, but not. It wouldn't be a reason to not try.
That's
Right? Because I didn't know. I do know at this stage, like when I play, there's something else that happens that maybe I'm not necessarily in control of. And so I think that definitely exists, but it's not, I wouldn't say that should be a deterrent to learn how to play, but you can just kind of feel it. And I mean, people attribute it to like, oh, well, you can dance, so you can play the drums, you have rhythm, but it's kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. There's sort of a midline where you could be in, you sort of like be in it, but when you really tap in, that's when you don't even realize what you're doing anymore.
Yeah. Well, do you still go to gigs?
Oh yeah.
And do you watch the drummers when you when you go to?
I'm telling you, like I feel like I should send you an OC's video because if you haven't seen them, they have two drummers, and it's not like it is two drummers going full throttle for 90 minutes. Like it's so strong. I mean, talk about like feeling it. I when I first met them, I was just like, how do you do, and they're like, yeah, we share a brain, like what one does, the other one completes. And it's just, you just watch them like this the whole time,
Yeah, I should sort of like go and see OCs because I have heard so much about them. I've heard how good they are, but I've not sort of like tried. I've not been to any of their gigs yet, but I will. I will do. Two more questions. Disasters. How have you ever had any sort of like drumming disasters or accidents? Or,
oh yeah. I mean, with Toilet Boys, because there was fire involved, like it was getting burned, right? So definitely got burned a few times by pyrotechnics. I have fallen off of my drum throne onto the floor, where I've had it break while I'm playing, and so then I have to kind of, play squatted like this. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Plenty, plenty of disasters, but no disaster that's ever prevented me from finishing the gig.
yeah, any sort of like blood, like so like
Oh,
maybe
well,
hitting you.
definitely bled a few times, you know, but that's like that's the nature of drumming too. Is like it's so easy to get cut on a cymbal or have your finger get caught in the stick or you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've actually got a late question here for you before we leave. Greetings from it's from Roel Marasigan, and greetings from Detroit. He said that Godstar has been sort of a Filipino anthem. I didn't know that, so like, thank you for that, Roel. But do you still listen to psychic TV stuff? And what other music do you listen to regularly?
Regularly. I mean, I still listen to psychic TV stuff. I've only started to tap into the stuff I was involved in recently because it's just been it just was like it's a lot, you know. It's not
Yeah,
like a it wasn't a passive friendship. I was very much involved in this person's life and they were very much involved in mine and so it's still sometimes just hearing Jen's voice, I'm kind of like I'm not ready for that yet, you know. But so yeah, a little bit of psychic TV here and there, but lately I've been listening to Can, um, this triple LP live LP that came out a couple of years ago, which I've really been enjoying. John and Yoko has been spinning a lot on my turntable lately. Uh,
oh,
yeah, yeah, I love John Lennon and the work that they did together. I really
yeah,
love.
yeah.
Um,
What would you say to that? Because it's always on social media. Every time someone will like post it, Yoko Ono in one of the museums, so like just going ah, and then
I love it.
and then
I love it. I
and then
absolutely love it. And I don't know what it is about strong women, right? Like going postal vocally like that. Wah! You know what I mean? Has always been like something that just thrills me. I don't know why. You know,
have you actually seen her live, or have
I
you seen her? You
only
have.
once, and I really wish that it could be more. But I saw her. I saw her the day she turned 70. Um,
All right.
and it was a rehearsal that they opened to the public because the real show was sold out, and But yeah, I really I think she's extraordinarily talented. You know,
Yeah, yeah. And she's an artist as well. She's like a brilliant artist. So, and the last question is, what would be your advice to aspiring drummers or maybe just musicians in general?
experiment constantly.
Yeah,
That's
that's
it.
that's
That's it.
yeah,
Because
that's
for me, like I think if I didn't start experimenting, I would have lost interest years ago. Because it can become just sort of the same thing. It's like, well, this is what I do. You know what I mean? But when you start to pull it apart a little more, you know what I mean? And kind of get in between things, that there's a lot to explore.
yeah, yeah. That's very good because it's always nice to do different things. Although sometimes fans, when they're like when the band changes their genre from one to the other, and then sometimes they lose fans and sometimes they gain like fans, but
Sure.
it's always good to sort of like change, and so like
Yeah, because without that, we can't produce anything new. We don't learn anything new. You know.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much, and I wish you so like good luck. I'm hoping that you'll come to the UK with Scorpion Tea, and
Oh, I'm planning on coming to Liverpool socially in the spring, so I might just have to come over to King B and say hi.
oh, right. Are you gonna go and sort of like see a band or?
No, I'm working on my memoirs, and I'm working with a writer in Liverpool.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, wow. Well, I go to Liverpool quite a lot, so it's all like if
Well, let's go see a gig. Let's go see a gig.
yeah, yeah, that would be great. I mean, we sort like I'll keep in touch and I'll send you an email or something. And then if you're in Liverpool, if you're in the UK, it would be nice to sort like meet up and
100%.
have a photograph with you. And
Yeah,
then oh, thank you so much, Adley. I hope you all like enjoyed being here on Ask the Drummer as well. And
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and happy belated, is it belated happy Thanksgiving or something? It was yesterday
It was a
or
couple of days ago.
a couple of days ago. Yeah. And so enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll catch up with you hopefully next year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. It's so lovely. Oh my god, so like feel a bit bad because, I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm glad that Ruel is here telling us about Psychic TV, because I know it's like a cult band, or it's like Genesis B Orange, so like a cult figure. Um, Someone that you know but don't really know much about your music, or maybe it's just me. But anyways, thank you all so much, and thank you so much to Edley O'Dowd without the apostrophe, so just O'Dowd. Yeah, check out his new band called Scorpion Tea, and if check it out on YouTube. There's brilliant video of a song called "In a Vile Suit." I think I think you'd really love it. It's a fun video, um, and yeah, I'll be back next week with amazing, so like young drummer. He's probably gonna be like the youngest drummer that's ever sort of like guested on Ask the Drummer. And as always, love music, love life, love drummers. Thank you so much, Edley O'Dowd. That was amazing. I love sort of like chatting to drummers and finding out more about them. Yeah, so I'm off to Preston to see Ian McNabb soon. So see you all next week, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now. Bye. Bye.